Hi, this is Melissa Lewin, and I am giving my presentation on debunking the myth of learning styles. I chose this topic because I vividly remember learning about learning styles way back during my undergraduate coursework. I remember thinking that it sounded like a good theory. And then when I became a teacher, I continued to support the theory. So when I saw that it could be a myth, I was intrigued as to why, and I wanted to learn more about what would make it a myth. The term of learning styles has been used in education to explain individual differences in the way students approach learning. I got that definition from Ann and Carr, who wrote a research paper very recently in 2017. The most commonly known learning styles are visual, auditory, and kinesthetic, although there are many more, including broad versus narrow learning styles, analytical versus non-analytical, leveling versus sharpening, impulsive versus reflexive, and concrete versus abstract, just to name a few more. So the learning styles theory does accurately describe that people learn in different ways. That's just common sense, right? And that they prefer different types of teaching methods. This is the part of the theory that I supported, and I thought that was it. Digging a little deeper, I saw that learning styles theory could be confused with Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences, another theory I learned extensively about through undergraduate school. But even Gardner had some issues with learning styles theory. He argued that the idea of learning styles does not contain clear criteria for how one would define a learning style or where it even comes from. So now we get into the critiques of the learning styles theory. Ann and Carr, again, did extensive research, and they found several problems, including lack of a clear framework, failure to explain the underlying mechanisms in the theory. They found it to be a blend of borrowed constructs or measures, and ignorance of the research contradicting the theories. So I should mention that learning styles theory doesn't have much valid research to support it. But there is a lot of research that does not support it. So I was beginning to realize why it would be considered a myth. So basically, followers of learning styles theory, they took ideas from other theories that were better developed, such as personality trait theories and cognitive theories, and tried to make it their own, but there wasn't the proper research to back it up. There was also problems of measurement, use of less valid measures, poor reliability, and validity. That word's hard for me to say, sorry. And this is the biggest critique, I believe. There was a failure to link the theory to achievement. So if we're trying to be better teachers and to reach our students and to help them learn and remember the content, and there's no link to achievement in this learning styles theory, then maybe it really is a myth. Why have so many educators believed in learning styles? A couple different ideas. According to Hook and Farah, educators are eager for innovative methods to improve student learning, but they may lack the scientific training needed to critically assess the methods of neuroeducation. I know in my undergraduate coursework and even in graduate coursework, I do not remember learning about neuroscience and how the brain works and how we can help teach better ways to children to help them remember. I didn't go through that training personally. Williams suggests that teachers commonly come across narrow myths neuromyth-based methods by word of mouth from their institutions, individual colleagues, training providers who are often linked to those promoting neuromyths. So again, I thought I supported learning styles theory. I thought it sounded great, and my fellow colleagues and I would talk about, oh, little Johnny's a visual learner, we should use more visuals for him. Little Susie's more of an auditory learner, we should use more music and songs for her. But really, if you're just teaching to student strengths, then their weaknesses are not being developed. And for example, if you're teaching geography and you're trying to teach a child the map of the United States, you can't just play a song about it. You have to visually show the map. So if a child is an auditory learner and you're teaching about the map, you still have to use the visual of the map. Learning styles also sounds pleasing, and I think educators feel good believing that the theory works, but really it doesn't have the research to support it. There are alternate explanations to different learning styles. There's extensive scientific research that supports cognition and development theories, and by temperament and personality theories. That's again from Ann and Carr. And instead of focusing on one learning style, for example, visual, you need to incorporate a multisensory approach to help students better understand and remember the material. And I've seen that time and time again. If educators only teach to their students' strengths, like I just said, then their weaknesses will never be improved. So overall, learning styles is not a practical theory to use in the classroom. As Carey states from his book that we've been reading, since we cannot predict the context in which we'll have to perform, we're better off varying the circumstances in which we prepare. So we have to expose our students to different types of environments, different types of teaching, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, all of it. If we really want them to remember, if we want the neurons to ignite and make connections, we have to make the experience more memorable and not just show pictures to the visual learner. So now, if you can't tell, I'm starting to understand why learning styles theory is actually a myth. And teachers need to prepare their students for a future that is constantly evolving. And learning styles is just not an effective theory to do so. Thank you so much for listening. This is the first time I've done a recording like this, and I see I'm at the 8-minute mark, which is a little bit over, but I think it's the best one I did. So thank you. I appreciate your feedback, and the end.